some things. And I think that's more or less it. And if you have any questions that are outside of what we're going to discuss, you can always share it with us, and we will try to send you some more materials after the session. Oh, wow, there is a lot of people coming from Romania. That's nice. We're actually neighbors now because very surprisingly, I'm connecting from my home in Bulgaria. Oh, okay, Romania stayed quite big. I think this maybe it's the first thing. We'll wait one more minute for some more of you to share where you're connecting from. Oh, Italy is catching up. Be aware, Romania. Well, I'm quite sure that most of the people who put Brussels are not actually Belgium. So don't worry. So yes, as you can see, we're kind of like really spread out throughout Europe. For those of you who are connecting from more of the south countries where it's very hot, try to drink as much water as possible, avoid the sun, wear hats. Well, at least for the next 2 hours, you're not going to need to wear sunglasses and a hat, but still have your water. I have like my water tank next to me just in case all the time. So definitely drink a lot of water. And Anna, maybe we can go to the next question. So actually 2 hours going to be quite short for the topic that we're going to tackle. But it would be really interesting for us to see what you would like to learn from this session, because if we don't manage to cover it, we will try to kind of like compensate you after with sharing some more information, because honestly, when it comes to these topics, there is like you can spend hundreds or thousands of hours of just like finding new things and reading new stuff. So definitely there is going to be a lot. And as I see like different funding programs, this is also like something that you could learn a bit more during the next session, that is session number 2. So definitely share with us what you would like to learn more. Oh, see, there is even like a question about like more about the work of AI. Finding opportunities always like being on the top. Maybe with upcoming Q projects, we can also like share a link with you for like projects that AR is doing right now, and also Anna already shared with you the link for more information about the youth regional network that that AR is having. So it's definitely something that that you can check. Okay. Okay, maybe we can move on. Thank you all, and if you still like want to add something, feel free. Oh, I now see that there's also like someone that is in Brussels, but is from Greece. That's kind of sad. Greece is so nice, and then you live in Brussels. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do, I'm actually going to share my presentation. And before we divide you into different breakout rooms where you can also start talking a little bit, start discussing some things that are connected with cohesion policy, where we thought of like 2 fun questions to ask you. Anna, did we manage to cope up with the questions in the end in here? Okay. So as you might have noticed, in the past few months, like the main thing on the internet is Barbie and Oppenheimer, or Anna didn't manage to do it?
I had, but now it tells me I'm logged in from another device once again. So we do it via chat, I suppose. Unless maybe
okay.
Eric, it works for you now, because no. Well then, yeah.
Okay, it's fine. So we had 2 ice-breaking questions for you. So the first one was, this is going to be for the next activity. So the first one is, would you prefer the Barbie or the Oppenheimer movie? And the second one is, are you more of a sea or a mountain person? And then we're gonna separate you into breakout rooms where you can answer the 3 questions that you can see now on the screen. So you can also get to know the rest of the people within your breakout room. Oppenheimer mountain. I actually, I have to say that I don't have a preference because I watch both movies and I love them both for different reasons, so I cannot choose between them for sure. And for the sea mountain, I'm definitely a sea person. If I go into a mountain, probably I will die because I cannot even like breathe properly in, at mountain air. So yeah. I see a lot of Barbie fans. Oh, how can Barbenheimer? There is someone that understands it. It's funny when people like Barbie/C because Ken job was just beach. Okay. Thank you so much. It's fun to see that it's not only me have been obsessing with these movies, but I'm a huge movie geek, so it was bound to happen. Barbie at the lake. That's good. Okay. So we're gonna start separating you into different groups. In there, you're going to see one of us, so one of the colleagues from AR, and they're going to share with you a mirror where you can, wait, yes, where you can work on the activity that I'm going to explain to you. So there's going to be 2 parts of your breakout room discussion. The first one is going to be the icebreaker with you saying your name, stating the language that you have always wanted to learn. So you can go wild in here. You can be a bit even like more into like your dreamlands of the dream language. And then the city or region in Europe that has always been like a dream destination of yours, but you haven't managed to go and see it yet, or maybe you have been there and you just would like to go and see it again. And then the second part, let me go to the slide. So the second part is on the mural that I already mentioned, you're going to have terms that are connected with cohesion policy and then the definitions. And they're going to be spread out. So you need to connect them with one another. Please don't use Google. It's actually, a lot of them are very straightforward. So as soon as you read them, the sentence, you're kind of like going to know what is it exactly. So the idea in here is like not to win, not to be 100% correct. The idea is like for you to see the terms, to read the definitions, to think about it a bit, to discuss it a bit with your new digital friends within the breakout room and decide how to match it. And when you're done, one of you is gonna show us how did you connect the definition with the term, because this is basically very kind of like basic or very crucial terms when it comes to EU cohesion policy. So it's definitely something that you're gonna hear from me, or you're gonna read about somewhere during the session and after the session. Okay, so Anna, maybe we can start dividing them into the breakout rooms. Anna is my biggest helper today.
Okay, they are open, so you can just go and join them. And see you back in 15 minutes, right?
Yes, I forgot to say the time. So yes, 15 minutes. If you could tell them in the group that it's 15 minutes, but we can also broadcast a message.
I'm gonna call them back now.
Yeah, let's close. No. Yes.
I'm closing now, but they still have 1 minute to come back. Okay. Everybody was great, like the exercise.
Really?
Everybody knew. Yeah, like I mean, we had the law people, so like we had the double check with the legal side of things. Seems all right. Elitsa, we cannot see your screen, or it's only me, maybe I see black.
No, I stopped it. No, wait. I stopped it. I paused
now I can do the poll of
Barbie
Heimer and all. Damn it.
Am I sharing the right one? Yes. We already did the Barbie Heimer. Okay. So I think that like everyone is back, because you see that we are 43 again. So, okay. I hope that you enjoyed the first activity and you also managed to get to know each other a little bit more. So first, it would be lovely if one of you from one of the groups would like to be the tribute and share how did you match the terms and the definitions. And maybe before that, if any one of you encountered any like difficulties, or you have any questions or something that needs to be clarified, just to make it clear that all the definitions came from the European Commission website. So it was basically like me copy pasting from there, and I just like changed where like the term was like mentioned, but those are like official EU definitions. So if there was like something weird, it's not my fault. Okay, so any questions? Feel free to raise your hand, or just like put it in the chat. And yes, who would like to share how you matched the terms?
Maybe if you stop sharing, then we also see the full gallery view and have
Yes.
like all the faces. Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Awesome.
Someone? I promise that we don't bite, and especially when, okay. Nefeli, is it like correct to say?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Right. What do I need to do to share my screen?
Yes. I think that you cannot do that. No,
I
you
cannot.
cannot do that.
Are we sure?
Me already
can do
like
that, she
forgetting
can
that
do
this
that.
is not Teams. Okay. Tell us in which group you were.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, she can.
Okay,
That's great.
perfect.
Oh, all right. So there was no actual conversation happening because we were also focused into reading all the text. So we matched program with detailed plans, outermost regions, 9 regions in the European Union, trans-European networks. They consist of cross-border transport and energy infrastructure. Enlargement, it refers to the waves of new members. Equal opportunities, equality, and non-discrimination is a cornerstone of European law. European Solidarity Fund, it's established in 2002, designed to rapid division. This one I haven't even read it. This is the consult.
So
Yeah,
I think that this is the only. No, it is the EU Solidarity Fund.
Is it?
Yes,
is
actually,
it
all of your terms are like matched correctly. Well, I told you all that they're very easy, just like it's a lot of text, but when you read it, you actually see that it's not that hard. So yeah, thank you, Nefeli, for your help and for volunteering to do this. So yes, still my question towards all of you of like, if you have any questions or if you want to share if something like felt like a bit too difficult or it was a bit like confusing, feel free to share it with us.
Of course, I would like to ask if anyone cheated. Okay, because that's a lot of text and 15 minutes, was not enough time. Somebody must have, searched it. Okay, look it up.
I hope that nobody used Google.
All right.
No, we had our own Google. Like I know people that study law in our group, and I think. Wait, I lost you now. Sebastian.
So Google had the name.
Oh, Sebastian. I think. Yeah, Sebastian. Yes.
I think by reading only the first parts of each like description, you could easily put them together. So yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really like they gave us the keywords like subsidiarity and then multi-governance, cohesion policy, inter-regional cooperation, and transnational cooperation, which was we had to double read it to make sure. Like I at least I had to.
Some were also very focused. Like it was a few minutes of silence, but everyone really focused, so it did very well.
Yes, you always have this like everyone being like, oh, what is this? Let me read it, and then like nobody like talks to anyone. But it's good. I'm happy that you managed to match it. I'm quite sure that probably all of you did like super well and you barely had like any mistakes. It's a lot of text, but it's very straightforward. So yes, I can actually share even like the link with you from where this comes from. There's also like all the definitions connected with like the cohesion policy if you want to check more. But definitely if you search it, you're going to see one of the first searches is definitely the European Commission website. So thank you so much for this. And we can go to the next one. Okay, so again, we're going into breakout rooms because we are a lot of people. So it's very hard to interact when we're like more than 40 of us. So you're going to answer several questions. So you have 3 main questions. So first of them, it's going to be, have you ever heard of EU cohesion policy? Do you think your country is benefiting from it? Actually, cohesion policy, it was one of the definitions. So you can still like open the mural, check it again if you want. And then can you think of an example how your country or region benefited from the EU cohesion policy? So again, like no stress. If you cannot think about it, use the power of the group. So hope that anyone, at least one person in your group will have an example so you can discuss that, and make sure that during your discussion, you take a note of the examples that the people shared, and then in the end you can share with us what you discussed throughout the within the breakout rooms. So we can maybe start separating the people.
Yes.
And
so for this group, for this activity is back to the same group. Well, we will have different group after, so
yeah.
No need to reintroduce.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
See you in 10 minutes. Is that?
Yes, 10 minutes, and I would just like copy paste the questions in here. Okay, so you can all copy paste it and take it within the group. Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Hello.
Hello. I think that it's more or less
This felt short.
Back. What?
This time felt short, like as we were
Yes.
starting at the end.
Yes. Yeah. It happens. It happens. Okay. So, who of you would like to share a nice example that anyone shared, or does anyone wants to explain how their country or how a country could benefit from the EU cohesion policy? Okay, let's me pause sharing.
Or like maybe just what you shared in general in your group, that it's in our case it wasn't like so much examples, but let's say how we got to know something about cohesion.
Okay,
There are two hands raised.
Yes.
Yeah.
So first we have Chiara, and then we can also hear from Ramon. Go ahead, Chiara.
Well, hello everyone. Yeah, my name is Chiara. I'm Italian, and I was in group, if I'm not wrong, number 4. And we discussed quite a bit about cohesion policies, and almost all the group knows about them. And we can all agree that our countries and region as well, benefit quite a lot from them, particularly through Interreg programs or Interreg funded projects. And in agreement with my group, I also want to share with you my experience with cohesion policies, because I got to learn about them through a volunteer experience that I did in the Interreg program, namely it's Interreg Youth Volunteer. And I had to, I mean, I didn't have to, but I decided to do an event about them to let people be more aware about them and what turn, not just in our discussion today, but during the event, is that particular country, of course, of Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, because we are less developed of like mainly northern countries in Europe, we benefit quite a lot of cohesion policies for actually reaching what is the aim of cohesion policies. So to have a more cohesive and I would say balanced equal Europe. And so, yeah, I can share this experience. So, and my group agreed with me about it. And and last but not least, I think for all of us, for those who already know and those who don't know, I think cohesion policies have a great degree of opportunity for young people. So it's important to get informed. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Chiara. That was really nice to hear. And it's also like a really good example that also some of the people can Google and search a bit after the meeting, but also during the next session, we're going to tackle a lot of this type of opportunities that young people can have. So definitely, Chiara, thank you so much for sharing this. And Ramon, what would you like to share with us?
Yes, thank you, Elitsa. So we also talked about examples. For example, I'm from the Netherlands, and the Netherlands received approximately 623 million euros for this transition, let's say. Basically, they focus more on public-private partnerships. So, for example, here in the region of the province of Gelderland, which is the richest province in Netherlands when it comes down to European subsidies, they created a space for business, academics, and the government to work together on certain projects, which, for example, could be about hydrogen, green technology, innovation in, for example, AI. So they're really having this triple helix working together in one area. So everything is more effective in terms of communication, in terms of knowledge-based sharing, in terms of networks. So everything you need is in close proximity. So that's mainly what let's say funding is used for. They create certain spaces to be used in order to implement the project and the funding that has been guaranteed. Other examples from other countries that we talked about were, for example, public transport. I think that's a very important thing to do as well, because workers, employers, citizens also need to move from A to B. And the faster they do it, the better it is, because as we all know, time is money. So I think infrastructure, transportation is a big thing. Another part was also mentioned, for example, poor families that are struggling to get by, to be sure that they get educated in terms of reskilling, green jobs, what does it mean for them? So that's just the third example. And the fourth example was mostly focused on paid internships for young people, because most of the time we see that young people take the risk in getting a certain job, but they're not sure if this job is being more sustainable. So they take the risk at first and they're not getting paid for it. So that's something that I think shouldn't be the case, especially in Europe. So I think paid internship in regards to, using this big framework, because there's a big budget, 55 billion in total. I think we should include youth more in terms of reskilling them in the labor market. So those are the four main examples that I can mention from our group. So yeah, thank you.
No, thank you as well, Ramon. That were really good examples. So thank you both, you and Chiara, for sharing those things. And does anyone else would like to share something from the discussions that you had? Okay, I don't think that I see anyone. So first, before we go on a short break, so you can all move a bit, do a bit of back exercises, take water, and come back. We're going to do a group picture. So for those of you that you don't like your face to be in a tiny square on a screenshot, you can also turn off your camera. We allow that, it's fine. For the rest of you that are fine with it, you can stay in. And Anna, are you going to take the group photo?
Yes, I am. And yes, I see. I'm trying to fit more people. If not, I have to do two. No, wait, I can hide non-video participant. All right there. No, still, we're too many. So smile throughout it because you don't know. 3, 2, 1. There we go. And second page, right there. YOUTHopia, everyone? Okay, great. Yes, and Elitsa, I would suggest the breaks, since we're a bit late, could be shorter, like I think 5 minutes to refill coffee and toilet, whatever. Is that fine?
Oh, we can at least like do it like for 7, so everyone has
7
like,
is
time
great.
to
Yeah.
fuel and go to the toilet and so on. So okay, let's meet again at 16. No, it's 16:15. I have a time difference, so I always
That's
like
perfect.
think about it. Okay, so we meet again at 4:15 back here, 4:15 Brussels time. So yeah, see you in a bit.
No. You can just take off the camera and stay connected.
I cannot decide if I feel warm or cold. Okay, I think that we more or less have most of the people back. Well, there are like still a few people without cameras, but maybe we can like slowly start. So during the second part, we're going to talk a bit about like policy making and decision making in the EU. So we're going to a bit hint at what could be our role in it. So let's see. Also, I want to like to give you like a heads up that this is again like a lot of topics that could be extended a lot could be said, a lot could be explained. But in here we're kind of like tackling a lot of the things very like briefly and superficially. So feel free to leave us like a comment or a question in the chat if you're eager to like to know more about anything of the things that I will mention, and I will make sure that I will like gather some material so you can read a bit more. This is actually how I learned a lot about like European integration and this type of things, because I was supposed to learn it at university, but they were like too slow, so I learned it myself first, and then I had to learn it at university. So okay, we're gonna start with the most basic and the most well-known thing probably within all of you. From what I heard from like your group discussions and what I saw, I think that a lot of you are probably going to not feel that this explanation is going to be a shocker. No, wait. So for a bit, am I sharing my screen? I should have been sharing. No, no. Okay. Then I'm just like going to the ordinary procedure. So I was thinking what would be the best in sharing how the basic ordinary legislative procedure works in the EU. So I'm using the one that they have in the European Parliament website because I think that it's quite extensive, and they also have like these like cute icons in here. So I'm gonna share the link with you in here. So after the training, definitely go explore. You can also like see in here like deadlines and this type of things, and go a bit deeper. So when we talk about the EU, there are like there are 7 main institutions. And when it comes to submitting a legislative proposal, that's the power of the European Commission. So the institutions that you see in here, like the European Investment Bank, the European Central Bank, the European Parliament, the Citizenship Initiative, and the Quarter of the Member States, these are all stakeholders that can propose a legislation to the Commission. But the Commission is the only one that can actually propose the legislation. So they can advise, they can suggest, but then the Commission is the one deciding on this type of things. Then when there is like a proposal, there is like some kind of a document, finally, it goes to first reading in the Parliament, where they might modify things, they might suggest new things, and then that's text with any modification that the European Parliament might have done goes to the Council of the European Union. So they might change some things, they might agree on some things with the Parliament, and if both institutions agree on things, the proposal could be adopted. This is like best case scenario. This is also like one of the rarest things that happens usually. And most of the times it goes to a second reading. So during the second reading, the Parliament sees what the Council may have proposed. And if they liked it, they adopt it. If they don't like it, they didn't adopt it. Then the Council again examines what the Parliament might have proposed, and they have the same options of like, if they like it, it's adopted. If they didn't like it, it's not adopted. And if they get to the point where like the Parliament and the Council didn't adopt it, they go to kind of a, I mean, for me, it always sounded like they're going on like family therapy to talk about things. So they have the conciliation committee where an equal number of MEPs, so members of the European Parliament, and equal numbers of council members are joined together to talk about different disagreements that they have in order to agree on a joint text. And then that joint text goes into a reading in the Parliament and in the Council. And if they like it, it might get adopted. If they don't like it, it doesn't get adopted. So this is a very, very, very fast explanation of how an EU legislative process works like. So this is like the basic one, but there is, of course, a lot of details coming into places when we talk about it. So let me get back to the presentation. Okay, so the next thing you already saw in the terms that you were like connecting that there is like the principle of subsidiarity, which is basically when you have a problem, you go to fix the problem with the closest, more efficient and more economically best way to solve that problem. And then you have the proportionality principle, that is basically something should be done if there is like a need to be done. So again, in a way to be a bit more efficient. So when it comes to anything EU related, those are the two main principles that are everywhere in the treaties, in EU decision making, in EU whatever you can think of. Then the EU is, of course, a very complicated thing. So don't feel overwhelmed if you don't understand a lot of things, and a lot of things have been very much confusing to you in the past few years, or even if you have had like some subjects at university or whatsoever. So when it comes to the EU, this is like there is like this multi-level governments that can explain the European integration that we have right now. So we have different elements of this multi-governance that is like the supranational, that is basically having the European Commission, because this is an institution that is transformed from politicians who come from a member state, but then they gather together and they work for the whole EU and not just for their country. It's kind of like a similar way with the European Parliament. They get elected by their own country, but they work for all EU citizens. Transnational, this is more like the Council of the European Union. So in there we have the ministers coming from the national governments. And this is kind of connected with also like the intergovernmental approach where you have different national governments. I'm quite aware that this is probably like the most not understanding part of my presentation today, or even like of our training today. But believe me, probably like in some time, you're going to get it. Okay, the next one is again like connected with all of these like multi-level governments and how the EU work with the two main principles. And it's like the EU competencies. This is like something that I have done with doing like several trainings. And believe me, 80% of the times people are like very confused why I'm talking about this, why I'm mentioning it. And I always say that there is like a lot of logic behind it, but it's very hard to convey it. So the EU competences, this is like things that have been set in the EU treaties. So the EU treaties are basically like the type of a constitution. It's not a constitution, but it's a type of a constitution that the EU uses to function. And then there is like three main types, which is like the exclusive, the shared, and the supportive. When it comes to the exclusive, I put some examples on the bottom. So the exclusive one is a custom union and monetary union. So for all of the member states who have the euro, for example, they're part of the monetary union. So in there, the EU tells them what is going to happen when it comes to the monetary policies within their countries. And it's again with the custom union. So within the custom union, we have rules and regulations when it comes to transferring customs and so on. Maybe you remember when the UK finally triggered Brexit, and we started having a lot of like custom taxes when it came to like things coming from the UK. So this was something that it was like part of the customs union. So these are things that like the EU member state give exclusive powers to the EU. So they cannot say anything about it unless the EU kind of like decided to give them the power to do so. Then in the shared one is like my first example is like the regional policy that we're also like talking a lot today. So it's competences where the EU and the member state, they work together in order to make legislations, to create programs, to fix problems, anything like this. And then the supporting ones is more of like this type of policies that it's member states that they take care of it, and then the EU has like the supporting function is more of like they give some resources. When it comes to resources, mostly like funding or like funding programs where like the EU member states can use it in order to enhance those policies. So like one of the more clear example is education. Probably a lot of you that like even like in high school or at university, you have like noticed that there is like a lot of problems in a lot of countries connected with the educational systems, and it's something that is like ongoing debate, but it's also something that a country has to fix it themselves, and it's not something that could be fixed on a European level. For example, health was a supporting function, but after COVID-19, it started to be discussed, and some parts of the health policies where it's connected with like global pandemics is also like a shared competence between the EU and the member states. Okay, and then we come to the EU cohesion policy. So once an EU country, well, once a country becomes an EU member state, they start to be part of the EU cohesion policy. So the whole Europe, a lot of us are coming from EU member states. So we know that we specifically come from regions or areas that are very different. Here, it definitely applies the principle of united in diversity, because the regions are very, very diverse. And we have like Baltic regions where it's mostly like you have the capital city, so it's like mostly urban areas, and then you have like big countries like France, like Germany, like Poland, that they have a lot of rural areas. Well, there is also like a lot of big cities, but there's also like a lot of rural areas that people forget that they exist. There is also like other countries like Romania or Bulgaria. We also have a lot of like mountains, and in there we also have a lot of like areas that are very much affected, and they're also like part of rural areas. So in when it comes to funds, they assist all member states and regions in any sort of like the economical and social development, and they address like problems for like regions with severe and permanent natural or demographic handicaps, like regions with low population density, islands or cross-border or maintained regions, like something that you saw in the first activity with the outmost regions, and then areas affected by the green and digital transition and the rural areas. And then in here, I put like the main big key funds that are like that kind of like collect all of the smaller like funding schemes under them. So we have like the European Regional Development Fund, the European Social Fund, the European Cohesion Fund, and the Just Transition Fund. And then 3 other ones that support cohesion policy as well. So it's the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund, the Agriculture Fund for Rural Development, and European Investment Bank. Because cohesion policy, it's also like you saw it in the activity as well, that it's a lot about like investing in European regions. So it's a lot of funding and resources being allocated to regions and parts of Europe that's needed for their growth and their development and tackling some issues. So that was a lot of talking from my side. Firstly, I would like to ask if there are like any questions, because it has been a lot of information in a very like fast way. So if you have any questions or anything that has been like super unclear, you can ask me now and we can move on. Okay.
I think, yes, I mean, on cohesion policy, there are a lot of, I believe, questions still, like, and how, like, it differs, like, from the main policy, because indeed, like, apart from the member states, the importance is also for the city and regions to have their voice heard and, like, taken into account when every 7 years they decide about the priorities for the fundings. But I think it will become clear in the next session when we will go into each funding program, because yeah, that's you know, we will more go into detail about it. So
yes.
About the main legislative process, maybe was it all clear for those? Especially, I know, like in my group, like there was someone that didn't study, that is not studying like politics or law. So
oh, poor people, they must.
Yeah, but resources right are a lot. So I think it was a good introduction,
yes.
Elitsa.
Yes. Actually, there is like a lot of resources. A lot of times it's quite like overwhelming. I think that like I also experienced it like personally when I started to get to know like how the EU works, because it's very different from what we're used to, even if we understand the basics in our country, because the EU is neither country, it's neither like an international organization. It's so it's a very like particular form that no other international body has it in the world. So it's complicated in it, and little by little information comes into places. So I was like very like fast in like telling you like all of the basics that I know, and probably it's very like not so comprehensive right now, but I hope that with time it's gonna like sink in. And to something that also like Anna mentioned, when it comes to the regional policy, as I mentioned, that it's like a shared competency. So when we have like the EU budget, there is like a lot of consultations when it comes to the regions, and also with the member states when it comes to the regional policies and what is going to come next for the regional funds. So this is something that is different for like, for example, if we talk about the budgets that is gonna be allocated for Erasmus Plus, for example, because it's something that is mostly like decided on the EU level rather than like receiving some feedback or consultations from the member states. Okay, and here I again need to thank Anna for her really nice and concise document on advocacy tools. So I'm gonna share with you 6 tools that it's more of like an inspiration, or maybe you can also use it to tackle the activity that we're going to have next. So there are like 6 main tools that we can think of when it comes to us or any other actors influencing EU decision policy making. So the first one is the European Citizenship Initiative. Then
you're not sharing now.
Could be like,
So,
I'm not.
no.
So
No worries.
yes.
You are? Okay. Now, yes, we can see that.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. As you can see, you could maybe like have done this like thousands of times before, and you will still have technical issues. So the first one is the European Citizenship Initiative. Then a second tool would be having a petition to the EU Parliament. Another one would be EU public consultation, a political campaign to the EU Ombudsman. Actually, ombudsmans, you also have them in your country, or legal challenge. So let's like shortly go to all of them. So has like any one of you heard about the European Citizenship Initiative? If you have, you can like raise your hand in the chat. Not in the chat, but like just raise your hand and we can like see it in the list of participants. So if you have, you can do so. Not so many people. Oh, okay. Now they're like becoming more. That's nice. Well, for the rest of you that don't know what is the EU Citizenship Initiative, so it's basically a tool that has been like being kind of like available for us as EU citizens since 2011, after the last treaty change from Lisbon. So for an ECI to be done, you need 7 citizens that would be part of the committee proposing the initiative, coming from 7 different member states. That's like the bare minimum. And then you need to have at least 1 million EU citizens sign the initiative, which in practice, which in like theory, it sounds that it's not so many, because we're a bit less than 500 million EU citizens from all of the 27 member states. But in practice, this is a very, very difficult job, because so far, I think that only 1 or 2 ECIs managed to get to this 1 million signatures, because there is a deadline of 1 year. Because there is also like an age requirement. So it's quite of a tough job to do. And it could be used for transforming public concern on a particular issue into a legislative proposal, but it must refer to a matter or a practice falling within the EU competences. So like these three categories that I already mentioned. The next one is a petition to the EU Parliament. So this is like something that you can do, that you can also do in your own country. But when you do it to the European Parliament, it's mostly like for the petition to raise awareness towards the Parliament on a particular issue and to kind of encourage them or demand a position from their side on the issue that the petition is about. Then public consultations. So this is like well, public consultation, it kind of like says that it's consulting the citizens on a particular EU legislative process. So it's mostly like used to monitor relevant procedures if the Commission posts the consultation on its website, or to mind out the or to basically keep the time frame within which is possible to do it, which is usually 12 weeks from the announcement from the Commission. Then the next one is political campaigning. So this is something that that anyone can do. So it's a document addressing one or more European institution or decision makers, containing a clear request. And usually it's take a position with reference to an existing campaign, cause or matter. What can be useful to raise awareness, of course. And you can always use platforms like Change.org or WeMovieU or something like this to collect signatures. But in general, also you can do a political campaign even if you're not a body or you're part of an NGO or a youth group, where you can even use social media or other tools to kind of enhance the message of your campaign. And then complain to the EU Ombudsman. So the EU also has an European Ombudsman that is there to represent the interests of us, the European citizens, and protect them from the EU institutions. So in here, you can point attention to administrative irregularities, unfairness, discrimination, abuse of power, failure to reply, refusal of information, or necessary delay caused by any or more EU institutions, and to trigger an investigation on the implicated institution behavior or to obtain recommendations. I have it 2 times, okay. And that's basically it. And then for the next activity, you're going to again be divided into 5 different groups. We're gonna share a mural again with you. In the mural, you're going to see 3 parts. The first part is a type of a mind map. The mind map is really easy to use. Just you click on the rectangles, and you can have more places to write. So in there, you can map out important stakeholders that you think that that are important for the decision making or to the challenge that you would like to tackle. So it's different type of stakeholders that are connected with policy making. So you can put even NGOs or any type of institutions, so anything that you can think of. And after identifying and analyzing the different stakeholders' perspective, who to seek support from and who to be aware of, each group must decide on the most suited advocacy tool to represent to the interests effectively. So you can suggest other advocacy tools that you know or you can also use the 6 ones that I briefly presented to you in order to tackle the challenge that you're going to receive. And the idea is to think about what could be the pros and cons of the different tools, and you can also like put it in the parts that you can see in the mural. And then when we're back in the room, each group will have 3 minutes to present their stakeholder analysis and chosen advocacy tool to the rest of the workshop participants. So basically, when you see your mural, you're going to see the challenge, and you will need to decide which would be the best tool to tackle this challenge. And it's kind of like a joint activity. So you start with the stakeholder mapping, then you evaluate the different tools, and then you see what is your challenge, and then you can say, this is going to be the advocacy tool that we will use. Yes, Anna?
And Elitsa, yes, just to make it easier and also like as a resource for you afterwards, we're sharing a document where the advocacy tools are listed again, and this is also useful for you now, but also later, so feel free to just check it. And so I'm going to start the rooms. This time we're going to make 4, and let's go in 1 second. No, just let me. Okay.
I also did it at the same time. Sorry.
Here we go.
This happens when the people you work with are too efficient.
You know. Let's do 15 minutes, yeah?
Yes, 15 minutes, yes. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
This time I was more strict on timing because we are already a bit getting over. Okay.
Fine, we're gonna be.
Yes. So we have everyone back. And I will get one person from each of the groups to basically like explain to us what did they decided and why on the advocacy tool. So I have the first challenge number 1 in. So someone that worked on it, you can raise your hand and we can give you the floor to tell us more about it.
Yes, I can try, because also it was kind of a difficult. It was a difficult thing to tackle.
Okay.
From what we saw, maybe the one that fitted a bit the best was the political campaigning, because it's kind of a, we have to continue something that's already being in process at the moment, that with sustainable and transition is something that we need to reach even more people. So in this case, we thought that, okay, through this campaigning, we should reach further with NGOs. Maybe now I was going to say also another thing when just I got cut, that also entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs that are in this transition to new energies and new ways of working, that could be one of the important stakeholders. And then from NGOs and political groups, from there creating a bigger campaigning or trying to reach as more people about this proposal of the directive. So that's what we got to see from this point in this challenge.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eric. And then someone from group number 2 on challenge number 2, the Plastic Waste Reduction Act. Let's see, no one.
I can take the floor if no one from the group dares to speak in front of everyone.
Okay.
So unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to go through everything, but they identified 3. So the first one was the European Citizen Initiative, but more if the legislative proposal is not already put forward by the EU, but more if citizens want such a legislative proposal to be part of the agenda. So coming from the citizens directly. The way it was phrased here, it sounded more like the legislative proposal was already put on the table by the EU. So then another participant offered the same thing as group 1, apparently political campaigning, to make sure that the citizens' view is heard during the process and can influence stakeholders. And then the third idea was targeting the political parties' electoral manifestos to make sure that it is part of their political promises and that they will deliver it. And then we were cut, so we didn't have much time to discuss this third one.
Okay, thank you so much. And yeah, it was a tight timing. Sorry for that. Then challenge number 3, the Equal Opportunities Employment Act. Or did someone have it? Yes, Danai.
Pardon me for not being able to open my camera. It's currently not working.
Not a problem. It's completely fine.
All right. So for that challenge, for that issue, I personally thought that amongst with other people in the group, the usage of complaining to the EU ombudsman would be beneficial. The issue has to do with it has to do with discrimination, and it specializes in discrimination in the workplace. So to use such a complaint, such a policy to advocate would be beneficial in the way that, first of all, it would directly go to a higher figure of power. So the message could reach the EU in a more direct way. However, in the other way of thinking, in the cons, we could say that because the problem is discrimination in a place where people have to depend on the work, they couldn't easily speak up. So there could be a problem that people would be afraid to lose their jobs. So it would be difficult to gather evidence of the discrimination. That's my thought on it. I would love to listen to another idea on the topic though.
Thank you so much, Danai. I think that's a great approach to tackle this. So definitely it's a good start, but yeah, it's definitely like very complicated and complex. I think kind of like all the challenges are in a way. Then challenge number 4, the Mental Health Support in Schools Act.
So we didn't have the time to decide on who was going to report. So is there anyone else from the group? I'd like to speak now, then I'd go quickly. And what we did is we identified first the stakeholders. So basically the Mental Health Support Act, so the commission that wants to put this act, but of course, as we talked before, both education and health is mostly member state responsibility. So with this legislation, the commission wouldn't be a legislation, but more like some support to the member states and a recommendation. What we thought is that probably the stakeholders, that we need to like mobilize more national stakeholders and everyone involved in the issue. So from youth organizations, students association, experts like psychologists, on the bad side of the stakeholders, like, I don't know, more conservative parties and people that wouldn't understand why mental health is important, or like pharmaceuticals selling us the antidepressant and all of that. So, and then, so basically when it comes to the tools that would be more useful to advocate for this act to be more ambitious, I think that on the national level, then it would be also for us like campaigning, because it's an issue that can be very relatable when it's the people. Yeah, I think it would gather like support if it's if there is a public campaign that it's well done and engaging and clear. And maybe at the European level, we thought about the petition to the European Parliament. So to make the to show the issues at stake, and maybe to gather the support of one or two some MEPs that are more close to the topic and to the issue. Yes, that was our thinking.
Thank you. So I think that was it, because we had only 4 groups, right? Yes. So first of all, thank you so much for all of your work. I know that it was like tight timing for all of the activities. It was a bit superficial, but I hope that they kind of like motivated you, or kind of like triggered your interest to explore a bit more or think about it a bit more. So before we close up, I was thinking that maybe you can share in the chat one of those 3 things. So something that you would like to keep from what you have learned today, something that you didn't understand so well, and something that you would like to learn more about, especially on the something that you would like to learn more about. We'll be really happy to share more things. So feel free to,
and also to include it in our next sessions, and
yes,
yeah,
yes,
to make sure we tackle that.
Especially if it's something with like more like you have activities and opportunities. I think that it's something that also Sophia, that is here and it's gonna be your next facilitator, would love to hear. Yes, Ramon. Yeah.
Yes, I want to thank you for this workshop. For the first part, I think it's important to have a bigger understanding of this social cohesion policy, and also for young people. I think most of us are quite young, so if we are prepared on what's coming, we can better anticipate on the solutions that we come up with. So great job, thank you. Hope to see you in the next one.
Thank you so much. That's really lovely to hear. But yeah, I think that those sessions are really nice, and hopefully that AI could soon maybe like even have like a food training on it. So yes, it's really great. Thank you so much. Anyone else that would like to share any of these 3 things, feel free to just put it in the chat. Would love to hear from you. I think people are starting to get a bit tired. So maybe meanwhile, while you're all like thinking about like what you can put in the chat, maybe Eric can share what would be coming next with the next 2 sessions, so people know and they register.
Yes, thank you, Elitsa. Well, this has been the first introductory session, so we are just trying to see how many people can decide to participate from all the people who decided to see what was going on in this session. So this has just been more of the first steps, and yeah, it can be a bit hard to understand most of the legislative part. Even for me, it's also quite hard. But for the next session, We'll talk about more of the real cases, more practical, where you'll see the realities of from all these legislative part takes into action, and you'll see which actions and initiatives you can take part, and then engage. And yeah, we expect something more prepared from what we've seen. So thank you, Elitsa, for all your great work and to organize, to be the one who started it. So yeah, I'm really encouraging everyone to come and see and to meet us again next week. And yeah, from this, I can say that you still have time for participating in the YOUTHopia contest to win 2 Interrail tickets. And yeah, see you for the next session. So Elitsa, you can say a last goodbye or comment on whatever, if some people have commented, and you can close the room whenever you feel.
Okay, thank you so much, Eric. And I mean, I'm personally very jealous that all of you can participate in the Interrail challenge. I love Interrail. Actually, this is how I did my Interrail. I also won an Interrail ticket, and I went around like 6 different European countries. So definitely an experience that I recommend to anyone. I would like to do it actually soon again. So let's see. And yeah, and thank you all for all of your comments. It's really like nice feedback that we can keep. And I think that some of the things we can also incorporate in the next 2 sessions. And yes, thank you so much for participating in and dedicating this like actually a bit more than 2 hours, so 2 hours and 15 minutes to being with us. And thank you for your patience. I'm really sorry that we're 15 minutes over. And yes, and have a nice end of the week and weekend as well. So yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. See you next
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Tschüss.
I need to go to the toilet.
Go.
That was really cool. Really liked it. Nice job.
Thank you.
I don't know if you have a debrief planned with Anna and Eric, but we have the sort of goodbye cake with Laura now because it's her last day tomorrow. So I don't know if they had planned to speak to you after.
I don't think so. We haven't
Okay.
like planned it, so I think that it's something that we can like talk about via email.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
Because after 2 hours, my brain is dead, but it was really nice. I really like my group.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, like I have like this like warm and like cold waves because it's like 22 degrees in here. So I feel warm, I feel cold. So yeah. But yeah, I'm happy you liked it. I feel like I wanted to include a lot of things, but it was like 2 little times. So yeah.
No, it was, I
Awesome.
really enjoyed it. I just don't dare to leave because Eric has his recording ongoing.
Ah,
but-
it's
Yes.
okay.
But I think that you should
That
stop
was
the
fun.
recording.
That was lovely.
Yeah,
I think it was great.
yeah. Because I think Eric didn't stop the recording, so it could
Where are
be
we
like-
listening? Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Ah, did he stop the recording?
No, he didn't, but he went to the toilet, so I just...
Yeah, but okay, let's stop the recording. After stopping.
recorded that